when you're that age and you're confronted with death or a medical condition, you're having surgery on your chest, I'm not sure that I would have been able to fully understand or contemplate what was going on.
It took me to a place of asking the bigger questions of life, and I began to process those questions. Why am I here? I needed to know who I was and where I was going, and that was going to determine the course of my life.
How much do you think the spiritual realm is really impacting what we're seeing today?
How'd I get to Colorado?
That's the ultimate question.
Yeah, 11 o'clock one night, I got a phone call from them. We're working with this girl. We're surrounding her with prayer, and we don't know if she's demon-possessed or oppressed. And I felt literally cold water running down my spine. I believe you, me, the average believer, the average follower of Jesus out there, does not spend enough time in awareness of the spiritual battles in which we are engaged.
Welcome to First and Focused, the podcast where faith meets leadership. I know you're going to put me on the spot. I don't know what you're going to ask me to say. I'm Mark Greaves, and in each episode, I sit down with business and industry leaders who put God first in their work and stay focused on building his kingdom through their calling. I could sit here and talk with you all day.
Keep up the great work, brother. The Lord is using you powerfully. I love you. I love watching what Jesus is doing in your life.
All right, everyone, welcome to First and Focused. As you know, this is the show where we interview leaders from various industries who are putting Christ at the center of their work and also advancing his kingdom through their calling and their mission. And today we're here with my good friend, Mr. Harvey Hook.
Mark, it's great to be here. It's hard to look at you and not smile. So,
dude, same.
I'm thinking we're going to have a good time together today.
We're both in our green today.
Yeah, we are.
It's not St. Patty's Day or anything.
No, it's not.
We just coordinated.
Yes, we did.
But I'm beyond pumped for this interview. I've told you a bunch of times, so you already know. We were just talking about it. Your book, Power of an Ordinary Life, get them while they're hot because it's not in print anymore.
No, it's not. Hard to find, but they can be found, and they are available on Kindle.
Yeah, but
it can be downloaded.
Almost 20 years ago.
Yes.
So it's a 19-year-old book, which is probably crazy because I'm sure you still remember writing it.
Oh, yeah. It was a joy. It was a journey. It was a joy to write that book.
Yeah. Well, it's been an inspiration to me this year. I read it heading into the year. I've already used it in countless, interviews, articles. I've coached people through it on your goal-setting chapter. I mean, it's a remarkable book. So I got a couple of things on that, but you've lived a pretty extraordinary, ordinary life, I would say. So we're going to unpack a little bit of that today. But before I do, let me hit your intro so people know who you are. Harvey Hook, you are a respected leader, author, and connector who spent more than 50 years, sorry, we just dated you there, serving in ministry and community leadership. You're the author of The Power of an Ordinary Life, a book that challenges us to see how everyday faithfulness can create extraordinary impact. You're best known as the founder and longtime director of The Gathering in Columbus, Ohio, an influential forum that brought together leaders from business, government, and faith. Through that work, you've engaged and hosted conversations with several high-profile voices, including figures like John Kasich, Mike DeWine, several CEOs, civic leaders, national speakers, athletes. You've helped shape the values-based leadership that's happening across our region. Today, you've continued your mission as the development director for Vista Village, which is a transformative tiny home community supporting individuals transitioning out of homelessness. You're a builder of people, a champion of purpose, and living proof that an ordinary life fully surrendered can leave extraordinary legacy. You're also a husband, father, grandfather, and a lover and follower of Jesus.
Well, thank you, Mark. It's great to be with you. And that intro is proof that you, me, and AI can produce just about anything.
That's pretty true,
right?
So I actually did feed that intro through AI, but what I did, I know a lot of that about you.
Yes, I know.
So I pulled it all and I said, "Hey, this is who Harvey Hook is. Give me an intro." But it does help make things concise. I will give it. I will give it that.
I love it.
Yeah, but man, you've done some crazy stuff. I mean, just knowing your background and some of the people that you've interacted with and the things that you've hosted and done over the years, I'm excited to unpack some of the learning. But before we get into that, can you just give us a starting point of how did you come to faith in Christ? When did that happen? Take us through your journey of your walk with Jesus.
My faith began at a very early age. I'm the youngest of three boys. I was born in Lincoln, Maine. My mother and my father, as children growing up, really lived at a subsistence level. Mother from Canada, my dad from Maine, met in Maine. They were married. And early on in their marriage, they became followers of Jesus, which created the foundation for my own faith. I was probably 9 or 10 years old when something clicked inside me. There was a truth that was encircling our family. There's a living, loving, personal creator God who created us, who endowed us, who had gifted us. And he wanted to live in a relationship with us. Now, at 9 or 10 years old, I couldn't articulate those words I just shared with you. But there was a deep understanding, a God consciousness and awareness. I gave my life to God on a Sunday night, laying in my bed, 9 or 10 years old, at age 14, at a summer camp in Northfield, Massachusetts. I rededicated my life to the Lord. And then when I was 16 years old, and I didn't know, sorry for all my Baptist friends out there, I didn't know if it was good old-fashioned Baptist guilt or if it was the call of the Lord that got me out of my Sunday morning church pew to go forward to dedicate my life to serving the Lord. And being the introverted, quiet kid at that time in my life, I just had to respond to the call of God. So that's kind of the quick entry for me that put me on my path of following the Lord.
Now you had a medical scare when you were a kid too, right?
Yeah, I was 16 years old, running around in between my junior and senior year of high school, and country kid. Down the creek in the morning, coming up, running in the house, my mother noticed a lump on my chest. And so we had a cancer scare for a while till the biopsy indicated it was benign, but they had to get it out of there because it was growing so rapidly. So 11 days in the hospital, a number of days in ICU. So it took out a chunk of my sternum, pieces of some ribs. And so, yeah, that set the course. Part of the course of my life, kept me out of the military during the Vietnam War. But yeah, that was a moment when we were all asking questions: who am I? Why am I here? How should I live my life? And so I was able to encounter those big questions of life at a very early age, and I consider that a gift.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, do you feel like that's where a lot of like your purpose and your drive came from? Because when you're that age and you're confronted with death or a medical condition, you're having surgery on your chest. I'm not sure that I would have been able to, fully understand or, contemplate what was going on. What was that like?
At age 16 and recovery at age 17, it took me to a place of asking the bigger questions of life. Yeah. I couldn't play sports. I couldn't do a lot of things socially. I had a lot of me time. And I began to process those questions. Why am I here if God has led me? And at that time in my life, being a small town rural kid, the only way forward to follow the Lord was to be a pastor or a missionary. And without a doubt, I knew that was never going to be part of my future.
Yeah.
So I really had to follow quietly and faithfully for God to open up my path before me. And I can remember having a conversation 5 years ago with the CEO of a major national corporation. He said, when I was 25 years old, I just wanted to get my job. I wanted to get my job so I could make some money. And for me, it was always the reverse of that. I needed to know who I was and where I was going. And that was going to determine the course of my life.
Yeah, and it sure has. I mean, so I know you spent time in Colorado, and this was in your 20s, right?
Yes.
So can you kind of bridge the gap from like those teenage years? What were you doing in Colorado? How did you kind of start your ministry? Because you tell a story in the book about spiritual warfare that you encountered, and one of the stories was specifically in Colorado. So my big question is, like, how much do you think the spiritual realm is really impacting what we're seeing today?
How'd I get to Colorado?
That's the ultimate question I'm asking. But can you tell us? Yeah, tell us what you're doing out there.
Small town kid born in Lincoln, Maine. There were 2,000 people in Lincoln, Maine when I was born. There's 2,000 people living there today. Grew up in small town New York State. I ended up going to Denver Seminary because Dr. Vernon Grounds is the president of Denver Seminary, and he spoke at our small church. And I was trying to make it to grad school, trying to become a clinical psychologist. I was accepted nowhere. I sat with Dr. Grounds in the back pew of the church, a young kid in the 70s, long hair, sideburns, Fu Manchu mustache. And this guy just sat there and loved on me and said, we started a counseling program. It's been in existence 1 year. And so if you'll come to Denver and become part of our counseling program, you have my recommendation and letter of support. So I went to Denver, Colorado, sight unseen to engage.
I'm just imagining you with a Fu Manchu right now.
Oh, gosh.
I think you should bring it back.
I think maybe next time we do this, I'll bring my first passport from 1976.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
look like I was on the FBI's most wanted list. It was hard to look at, but that was the style of the time. So I was working with Youth for Christ in Denver, Colorado. I was working with incarcerated kids in lockup there, juvenile detention center. And some of the spiritual warfare came out of those experiences. I was befriended by a couple of people who were also working with a young girl in a halfway house. And it was through my connection with the kids who were in lockup, anywhere from runaway to rape, robbery, murder, that I encountered this other couple. And I just said, hey, if you ever need someone as a support person for what you're doing, give me a call. Well, 11 o'clock one night, I got a phone call from them. We're working with this girl. We're surrounding her with prayer. And we don't know if she's demon-possessed or oppressed. And I felt literally cold water running down my spine. But I had to show up. I said I would join them in that time of prayer. So I called my best buddy at the time, Gil Arribas from Phoenix, Arizona. Gil picked me up and we went and met with them, and we surrounded this young girl in prayer. We were hearing voices. She was fighting, but we just surrounded her in prayer. And about 10 minutes into this prayer time with her, I was overcome with laughter. Why laughter? That's the last thing I thought I would encounter, because 20 minutes prior, I was experiencing this cold chill run through my body. But it was the presence of the Lord who showed up and met us in our humility, in our submission, and in our prayer for that girl. And over the next 10 or 15 minutes of prayer, that girl encountered a great, great, great peace. So yeah, it was that sort of spiritual warfare, spiritual engagement, and me with no history in it.
Yeah.
I said, yes, I showed up depending upon the Lord. So for me to respond with laughter and joy and peace could only be one thing. I didn't create it. I didn't generate it. It's something the Lord contributed to that moment in time.
Yeah. I mean, how much, when you look at the world around us now, because you're still living in full-time ministry, you always have, and you're trying to impact the world around us for Christ. Overall, we're trying to use this temporary moment to impact eternity. Do you still get a great sense that the spiritual realm is impacting what we're up against right now?
I believe you, me, the average believer, the average follower of Jesus out there does not spend enough time in awareness of the spiritual battles in which we are engaged. I was convicted earlier this week in one of my early morning devotional times with Oswald Chambers from his book, My Utmost for His Highest. And the challenge he gave for those of us running fast, tied to our phones, entrepreneurs moving in many, many different directions. Yep. He said, we find 1,000 ways to run ahead of Jesus, when the first work as followers of Jesus is worship and prayer. Yeah. Those are the first two duties of every day. They set the course of the day. They place our mind at ease, our hearts with peace. And those are the things that prepare us for all that we encounter along the way, including the call of God's heavenly host to surround us and be with us on the journey.
Yeah, there is something about that. I feel like I'm in a pretty good groove right now, like in this time in my life of daily scripture, time with God, prayer, and then like specifically some silence and listening. When I'm in those kind of grooves, I do feel like the things that happen throughout the day-to-day are easier to navigate. The perspective is correct. Whenever I've gone through seasons where I'm just too busy for that. You know, it sounds stupid to say it, but like
Yes, it is.
it's what happens in our head. We justify it. That's when the chaos can get the best of you. So I think what you just said is dead on.
Yeah,
I mean,
and being silent is one of the most difficult disciplines for any person to engage and manage. One of the simple little things I've done over the years is to simply have a pen and pad next to me. And the thought hits me, I write it down. That gives me the freedom to no longer remember it, but put it aside. It's very practical. But to managing silence is one of the greatest challenges any person can ever engage.
yeah, it's tough. Well, let's pivot into your move to Columbus from Colorado.
Yes.
I know you didn't just move out to the suburbs or, some cush place and then go travel in to do ministry, where it was needed. You moved right where the ministry was, if I'm remembering right.
Yes.
You moved into the neighborhoods that you guys were serving in. Talk to me a little bit about that, but also just as a leader, proximity matters a lot. And it doesn't matter if you're leading a business or a ministry, whatever it is, being there face to face and just kind of in the trenches with those that you're serving and working alongside is so important. So what did you learn about proximity? Why did you guys choose to do it the way you did it?
Well, it was vitally important. First of all, I was living in Denver, Colorado, part of a great Youth for Christ flagship organization nationally and internationally. 300 days of sunshine a year. I was never leaving.
Yeah.
What? You want me to go with you, Art Dio, and Gary Rod to flat, cloudy, sinus-infected Columbus, Ohio. Where is Columbus, Ohio? But I chose to accept the invitation. It was an opportunity to lead, grow, create. So that's why I came, was one of 3 founding members of what is today Central Ohio Youth for Christ. I came in to lead the youth guidance ministry. Our work, back in the day, we called it a ministry to troubled youth. At-risk kids, urban kids. So I moved into the Linden area. I moved near Hudson and Cleveland Avenue in community of Linden here in Columbus, Ohio. I moved there for proximity's sake, to live and work in the community with those people I was serving. I went down to Franklin County Juvenile Court. I met with Monty Crockett, their intake supervisor. Monty said, we have well-intentioned, good-hearted Christian people showing up here all the time who want to help us and help our kids. And Monty said, Harvey, I'll give you 1 kid to work with. And 90 days later, I'll let you know if we're going to support your work or not. 90 days later, Monty and I met, and he said, how many kids can I give you? So that was the foundational framework for youth guidance ministry, Central Ohio Youth for Christ. They referred kids to us. I lived in the neighborhood. I work with kids who were referred to us through juvenile court and probation department. This was their out from going to lockup. You hang out with Harvey and youth guidance and volunteers, you don't go to lockup. So there was motivation there.
Yeah.
So we worked with a lot of broken kids, a lot of families. Meanwhile, I met my wife, Rita, here in Columbus, and she also became part of the team. And so she worked with girls in the neighborhood. So there was no courts involved. We just created for our home a haven for neighborhood girls to come, to hang out, do cookouts, for us to do Bible study, tutoring, mentoring, and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was vitally important. And one of my mentors is Dr. John M. Perkins, who led for many years a ministry in Jackson, Mississippi, to the most marginalized, the most impoverished in that community. And one of his 3 guiding principles is relocation. We must relocate to where the issues are, to where the people are. We must live with them, walk with them through their course of life. It creates credibility. It takes our prejudices, it rubs them off our body. It makes us new, while we tend to think we're in the business of helping to make other people new.
Man, I mean, because I remember there's a couple of stories that you've told me over the years of how those relationships formed and then what impact that had on the girls. There was one in particular that I'm remembering from your book.
I'm not sure if this is the one or not, but we do know there was a girl that one of our volunteers was working with, and she was pregnant, and she was a junior in high school. What on earth did she do? And so there was a 24, 48-hour period of time when we did not know what decision she would make to abort or to keep her child. And we just let her, we're here to love you, help you, support you. And what happened in her, we quote, 2 lives were saved that day, as we like to say. She chose to keep her baby. She was adopted by a local church. She was adopted by a family within that church. She could come and live with them. She could complete her schooling. She had a volunteer team around her who supported her through this, through the birth of her baby, caring for her and her baby. And eventually she moved on, keeping her baby, and progressed with her life. So that's just one story. Us being in the community, had our team not been in the community, what would have been the outcome for her and her child?
Yeah. I mean, you don't know for sure, but it's you could probably assume.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It could be an abortion, and then her living with that, just
The
the guilt and
guilt going
pain
forward,
that,
yes.
that goes along with that. And then who knows what her life, becomes from that point on. Yeah. I mean, that's just that's the extraordinary piece of just one willing servant who's able to let God take them by the hand and lead them down the path. How many lives have you influenced in those ways?
Yeah.
You won't even know till you get to heaven.
And so if I've done anything noteworthy in life, so to speak, I said yes to God.
Yeah.
That is the thing I've done. I've said yes to God, and I'm still here, still trying to finish well. Not that there's a duty, but so many of my years of my life, I've felt, well, you show up, you do it. You're duty bound. You're to serve. You're to be the Apostle Paul, so to speak. And it's like, no. At the beginning of the year, I really reached out to the Lord and I said, I want to do whatever I do with you, for you, by you, through you, to be from a heart of joy, privilege. I get to be with you. We get to do this together. Let it be joy, not duty.
Yeah, that's really good. So the gathering, the reason I'm taking these steps with these questions is because I do think that your life had a path trajectory to it that you could not have anticipated.
Right.
Like, it's just, there's no way. You don't go from Maine to Colorado, working with youth, moving into an urban area in Columbus, helping out some of the incarcerated, the most troubled youth. And then all of a sudden you're running the gathering and you're with people in the White House and influential athletes and major business owners and CEOs of publicly traded companies. That probably wasn't on your radar.
No.
Can you connect those dots for us? How did that start? And then what was the gathering? Because I feel like that was kind of like the granddaddy of a lot of the things that are happening in Columbus right now. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the things that are taking place are standing on the shoulders of what you created with the gathering. So connect those dots for us.
Well, I'm sitting here smiling as you're talking because my life following Christ, I call it a crooked straight line. Crooked. You cannot imagine how many different turns I've made along the way. I was on a trajectory and suddenly, one day I'm driving a van around the city of Columbus with a bunch of kids in it. Next day I'm having breakfast at the Columbus Athletic Club with business leaders, so to speak. It looks like that. So it's a crooked straight line. The man I referenced earlier, Dr. John Perkins, one of my mentor in my life, since the 70s through his books, Let Justice Roll Down, With Justice for All. Conversation with him maybe a dozen years ago. He said to me, Harvey, you and I are just little nomads. We go where the Lord leads us. I have, even while I was doing all this work with kids and the courts in the inner city, there was always a part of me that was very, very, very much aware that there was a marketplace of leaders, business professional and government leaders. And there was always a part of me that had a heart for them as well. I can say, I realized maybe 20 years ago that God is, my single call in life is to follow him. In terms of assignments, he's given me 2 assignments, to the lost and least of these, as well as to marketplace movers and shakers. He has given me that dual calling, and I'm aware of it. My role is to connect the 2. to bring the people, the power, the influence, the resources to bear on the least of these. Let's bring those two together. So a former leader with Youth for Christ made me aware that he had left that ministry in Houston to go to Orlando, Florida, sent me a letter, and I held on to a letter and a brochure for a year. And it was like, this is time. I need to make this move. So over about a period of 3 months, I made that move to the gathering. So the gathering was a ministry, evangelism, discipleship, and leadership development to business professional and government leaders. It looked like men and women meeting for prayer, community, and connection from the marketplace throughout the community on a weekly basis. It looked like us bringing in speakers to share their life journey, their story, their faith as followers of Jesus. Bobby Bowden, former head football coach, Florida State University. Tony Dungy, Super Bowl winning coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Elizabeth Dole, when she was president of the American Red Cross. Reggie White, former NFL player, and others and others and others who came to share their stories and talk about Jesus at the Columbus Athletic Club, at the Columbus Convention Center, at the Hilton, at the Marriott, places where the name Jesus is not pronounced and put forth. And by the grace of God, we were able to do that over a period of 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible when you start listing off some of the names. And it's funny because, like, I know you personally. Mm-hmm. So, like, you were talking, one of the Coors guys, right?
Adolph Coors the fourth, the great-grandson of the founders of the Coors brewery business.
Yeah, like, he comes and speaks. You're telling me about taking people to the airport and picking guys up that are, some of the highest in society. Somebody coming in from the White House. I can't remember who.
It'll come to me. He was the inaugural head of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives.
Right. So, like, here you are, and you're rubbing elbows with all these elite society, and then also going and serving, in the muck and the trenches of the city at the same time. Mm-hmm. Why do you think God gave you this dual calling? Like, where did that come from?
Oh, that's a great question. Here, because he created it within me. One of our speakers, Dr. Miles Monroe, from the Bahamas, in one of his books on purpose. If you want to read a book, any books on purpose, pick up anything written by Dr. Miles Monroe. And one of the things he stated is God has finished something within you that you were created to start. God has finished something within you that you were created to start or begin. So that's the best answer I have.
I'm going to read this. So I've got your book open now. I have all my old baseball cards, keeping markers for things I was going to read. This is exactly what I was going to read. So you just brought it up. So I'm going to read it. You're quoting him here in your book, but the quote is, "The greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without reason. It is dangerous to be alive and not know why you were given life. The deepest craving of the human spirit is to find a sense of significance and relevance. The search for relevance in life is the ultimate pursuit of mankind. There is something God has finished in you that you were born to start."
Yes.
And so that's the full quote. And wow, I mean, how powerful is that? Yeah, I wonder how many are walking around with a finish line that's already been set forth for them, that God is just waiting for them to get started on that journey. They're standing at the starting line. He wants you to take the first step.
Yeah, and we're going at it from the wrong side of the veil, so to speak. We believe it's our job to find it. And I understand that thought process. Maybe it's our job to discover what God has already placed within us. So the burden, the beauty and the burden of being thoughtful, introspective, more an introvert than an expert. That's what I am, is we spend a lot of time in here, a lot of time in our head, sometimes way too much time. But it put me on a journey of self-discovery and other discovery. And so when I heard him say that, fireworks went off. Yes, that's it. That's truth. And so I 100% buy what he says.
Yeah.
Discover what God has already prepared for you to do.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead in the book, and I'm just going to read you this this little poem that you have in here. I don't know if it's a poem or not, but it's an excerpt from a poem, and it speaks to what you just said, and I just want to get your reaction to it.
Okay.
Because I just want to encourage people to not let this happen to them. Yeah. So here's the excerpt that you have in the book. It's on page, if anybody's got the book, on page 227. The wealthiest place on earth is not the gold mines of the world, not the diamond mines of the world, not the oil fields of the world, not even the platinum mines of the world. The wealthiest place on earth is the cemetery. Buried in the cemetery are dreams that died as dreams, songs that were never sung, poetry that was never written, businesses that were never incorporated. What tragedy lies in the wealth of the cemetery? I mean, when I read that, for me, it can go one of two ways. Depending on how old you are, you could look back with regret on the wasted time, not pursuing some of the things that God planted in your heart. For me, it's motivation to just like, let's get up and go. Like there's one life to live. We're running out of time as we speak. Let's go pursue things that matter.
Yeah, take a look at those doubts and fears. I mean, I think it's important to spend some time with them to seek to get an understanding. Are they doubts and fears, or are they invitations? And I will tell you right now, I have had zero impact from the life I have lived apart from living outside my comfort zone. The only impact I can have that will last is when I've existed outside my comfort zone.
Yeah. That's true.
Putting it all on the line, whatever that looks like.
Do you get more comfortable doing that the more often you do it, or do you think every time it's its own individual challenge?
Well, I'm at a new place, a different place than I was 4 or 5 years ago. During COVID, as you mentioned earlier, I've been around doing ministry for 50 plus years. I'm 73 years old, and
you look good.
Well, thank you. And I allowed this to creep in. Okay, you're on the last chapter of your life. It's time to chill. It's time to slow down. And what I have discovered is every day is a new beginning. Every day is an opportunity. And as long as we're here, we need to take advantage of those opportunities that are before us. John Perez, the founder of Vista Village, whom I work with on a daily basis, says, Scripture doesn't talk about retirement. You work 6 days, you have 1 day for a Sabbath. And so I am at a place right now where good. I am going to continue to work to create the best future I can for myself and others. Here's what I know. I'm a better person and the world's a better place when I'm engaged, when I'm moving forward. I know that for a fact. Anytime I've given too much margin in my life, I don't do too well with it. I need both the push and the pull. The pull is the call, move forward. The push is, I'm human. There are some fears. I've been in a nonprofit space my whole life. I may need to continue to work a few more years practically to have what somebody might say a comfortable retirement. This is the push and the pull. The pull is far more important.
Yeah.
Keep going, keep engaged. That's the only way we can change the world. And, my book, when I have the opportunity to autograph it for somebody, I normally ask a question: what will you do today in some small way to change the world forever? Even if today is the day, this isn't part of it, whether you're young, you got many breaths ahead, or if today's you're going to utter your last breath, the question remains, what will you do today to change the world forever?
Yeah.
I have to live that way.
That's really good, man. That's really good. Yeah, I've always heard we're pushed by drives, pulled by values. Where it's like the drivers are the motivating factors in life, whether that's money for fuel, or that's rewards, recognition, promotions, whatever it is, things that our society is motivating us with, but they're temporary things, right? And then values
Yes.
are pulling us somewhere. Those are the things that are deep within our heart.
Yes, yeah.
That the purpose within our life, the reason we're gifted the way we're gifted, you're going to be pulled in these directions because you can't escape it because that's who you are.
Exactly.
The pushers, the drivers, those are things that are going to come external that are going to be motivating temporarily for a second, but the other ones are
Exactly.
more long lasting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, you mentioned Vista Village.
Yes.
So let's just pivot into that for a second because you mentioned you're 73.
Yeah.
You're not retired,
No.
which is inspiring to me because I don't want to retire.
Well, thank you.
My wife thinks I'm crazy, but she's accepted it now. I'm like, I don't want to. I want to
No.
be useful all the way to the day I die.
Yes.
So depending on what speed I can go at the end, we'll find out. But I want to be useful and I want to do everything I can all the way until I'm out of here. That's what you're doing. So tell us about Vista and how did you come into wanting this to be part of your path?
Well, to real quickly, so the gathering after 25 years, we saw the world being the boomers being replaced by millennials. So we created Relay Leadership as a servant leadership, foundationally biblically based leadership development program for emerging leaders and millennials. And we created it to serve churches, nonprofits, but the majority of the marketplace, corporations like AEP, Safelight, Columbia Gas, and others. Turned it over to a younger leader, and I moved on from that. So Relay Leadership today exists inside of the Leadership Columbus program.
Can you, before we get to the Vista, I remember you telling me about your transition out. And you said you didn't want to be one of these guys that just holds on too long and eventually you're preaching to the choir and you had a movement, it had momentum and it was attractive, but then there comes a time where it's time to pass the torch. I think that's really smart as opposed to, a ministry or a leadership just kind of like dying with the leader because it comes, it goes, it gets past its bell curve and then it has its decline and then it fades. You didn't ride that wave out.
No.
Seemingly like almost at the height of it, you decided like, all right, it's time to pass the torch and transition this to something new. How did you decide that?
I took the Enneagram profile a number of years ago, and we process our life in the world one of three ways: through our head, our heart, or our gut. Head, intellectually, we approach it, we evaluate, we do this or that, or heart, we have passion that just pulls us forward, or the gut. I'm a gut guy. And things were changing as I was understanding. There was a growing sense over time that my days there were done. And I needed some time away from that to replenish, refuel, and not knowing where the Lord would lead me next.
Yeah.
So in all my stops along the way, my resume has never gotten me a job anywhere in my entire life. And I got a pretty good looking resume.
Yeah.
I've never needed one. I spent way too many hours working on it, though. I got a phone call from a friend, John Perez, who was developing this new innovative way to address homelessness and affordable housing here in Columbus and Central Ohio. Brand new model. That was going to break the glass ceiling of how we serve people experiencing homelessness. The majority model since the Reagan administration, high-rise complexes, Section 8 housing, HUD housing, vouchers. People move into these high-rise complexes. The beauty of that is you create housing instability. Some of the challenges that come from that, in many, many cases, broken people living next door to broken people without resources. How do they go get the mental health counseling they need? How do they go and create a resume? How do they take advantage of the community resources? And we want to create a new way of doing it. So people experiencing homelessness, 5 groups: living on the land, aging out of foster care, returning from prison, veterans, and in recovery. And then tiny homes, 1 person per home, 18 years and older, 1 person per home. Tiny homes, green space. You have your own home. You have green space. You can care for your own lawn. A gated community so you don't feel invaded from the outside. So your old friends can't just walk up to your front door with their latest supply of drugs.
Yeah.
An on-site community center, 4,000 square feet, where we provide financial literacy, workforce development, resume writing, job counseling, primary health care, mental health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let's make it transitional. So let's work with those individuals under this umbrella of homelessness who had the capacity that if they would take advantages of these resources within 2 years, they could be independent, fully employed, self-sufficient, engaged in life, contributing to life, as opposed to the average individual experiencing homelessness costs the taxpayer $30,000 to $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
So we flipped the script on that.
Was that difficult to implement? Like how on board was local government? Neighborhoods where the tiny homes are being planted. Like how did all that work?
First of all, the business community embraced it immediately. It was new. It was innovative. There was an exit strategy.
Yeah.
These individuals will be moved out. Thanks in part to some new, younger leadership at City Hall, City Council, county commissioners. They readily embraced it.
They saw
there has been some resistance to it. There were people who thought, well, if we get government funding, public funding, that's less money the traditional system is going to have. So there has been opposition. Been many of people who told us it can't work, it won't work, and others who wouldn't give us a dime until it did work.
Yeah.
It's now working. Lives are being transformed. And so we are a private-public partnership. We take financial support from the faith community, individuals, business, corporate, government. So for phase one capital campaign, $8.5 million. $7 million was privately funded. $1.5 million came from public sources. And so we have 41 tiny homes on site, 6 acres of land. 40 of those homes are fully occupied right now. People are on their way to transitioning out. 8 people have already been able to transition out to their own independent living elsewhere. That 41st home is set aside for a crisis call that we would receive from a statewide organization intervening in human trafficking. So when we get that call, that woman goes to that house until they're transported over to a home, a program specifically working with them.
Wow. So it's working now.
Working.
There's momentum. The flywheel's turning.
Exactly.
Wow, that's so cool. So how did your business connections and then your heart for those who are the marginalized, how is that coming to play through this role? During that time, from the gathering to relay to what I'm doing now with Vista Village, I prayed that wherever the Lord would lead me next, it could be built on the foundation of that 40, 50 years of experience that's come before, a heart for marginalized community, the poor, the impoverished, and connections to business professionals and government leaders. And then God chose to match us up with Lexi Rogers, our executive director, who, as a young woman, has been going into the Ohio Women's Prison for years. John Perez, business attorney, and also very well connected in the community. So John and I bring 75 years of experience where we can call on pastors, business leaders, leaders at the local, state, and federal level to hear our story. Yeah.
And so that is how God has brought all those pieces together. He created the platform, and John and Lexi and I are on it, doing what he's called us to do.
Yeah, I just think how much more rewarding is this than being on a beach, sipping Mai Tais, playing golf all day.
I mean, bored. I can't do it.
I know. It's just it's inspiring to me. All right, so I have to ask this because nobody gets as far as you've gotten in life and ministry, without some sort of support. And I know that you've had an awesome marriage. Can you give us some of the secrets? How have you How have you navigated some of this, some of the tough obstacles and all the opportunities and things that you guys have seized? How have you kept a healthy
Well,
marriage?
this wasn't planned, but my wife reminded me this morning that 44 years ago today, I asked her to marry me.
Oh, wow.
I showed up at her place on campus. She was living with a girlfriend. It was the evening of April 1st. And since I didn't want to pull the ring out of my leather vest that I brought from Colorado on April Fool's Day, I had to wait till after midnight to ask her to marry me. So
Oh, that's
44
funny.
years ago today. I think it goes back to our commitment to the Lord. 3-strand cord is not easily broken, that we've committed ourselves to Him first, to one another second. Faithfulness, being mindful of the small things that restore the other person's soul. And it's so important to get to know who we are. It's so important to get to know who the other person is. And some of the greatest, I wish I'd known this 44 years ago, talking about relationships and intimacy in marriage. To attract the person you want to marry, be the person you want to marry. Be those things. And when you be those things, how does that sound? How do you like my good English?
Yeah.
When you become those things, you be those things. Do
He
those
is an
things.
author, folks.
Yes.
Yeah.
It will attract that in the other person.
Yeah.
And so I think Rita and I are continuing to work on that. And maybe, we do much better at marriage today than we did 43 and a half years ago.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be at 18 this summer, my wife and I. And I do feel like we're better at it today.
Yeah.
There's something about going through things together, because whether it's really good things that you've experienced together or the really tough moments, the longer you endure, the more I can look at her and just love her more and more and more each day.
Yes.
Because we've been attached. We've been a partnership through all these difficult things, through all these good things, and through all the stuff that we didn't know what was coming next, but we just had to trust and move together. If you have a relationship like that, the love just continues to grow, which is cool.
Very much so. Yes.
So tell me about, some of the things that when you look back, over the course of your career so far, is there anything you'd change or do differently?
And the older you get, world, you reflect on that question more and more. Particular things along the way, decisions made, hires we've made that I wouldn't have done that, or things like that. But the decision to follow the Lord, I would not change that one iota. I would redo everything again, as difficult as it has been. Early on in Columbus, struggling financially, people show up with groceries at our front doorstep. Yeah, I would do all of that again. And the other thing, to create sense of freedom for those of us who maybe continue to live too much time in the past, is this: God will use everything you did right. Hey, God will use everything you did wrong, everything I did wrong. He will redeem. So that allows me to be free. I can be free from my past. Allows me to be free. And that adds so much wind to your wings.
Yeah.
Life moving forward.
Yeah, we don't think about that very often. We think about him using all the things that we've done well, but you're right. He doesn't waste anything.
No.
He can use everything we've also screwed up for his ultimate good and glory. It's wow, that's pretty incredible. So when you look out at the future now, what's on the horizon of your life, what are some things that God's teaching you now or that you're excited about?
Well, first, I'm trying not to get too far into the future, because internally I'm a connector. I'm strategic. I'm an advocate. I'm a builder and maximizer. So I like to build and create things. Thankfully, I'm paired with John Perez as we're looking at Vista Village. We don't know if it's a local thing only or is it going to become regional or national. So we're just trying to put in the work every day. And if those things happen, they will happen. So I'm working much more diligently to live in the moment, to live in the present. Don't try and create a strategic plan for the rest of my life, because every time I do it, it changes day one. And so trying to live forward with anticipation for the future and still see the road ahead uphill. Yeah. I think it's important to continue to look at life ahead as uphill. You're still reaching, you're still straining, you're still striving, you're still moving forward, but maybe doing it now with a greater sense of peace. I also realized I put in a lot of hours, energy, time, work, and angst, hours and days and weeks cumulative over the course of my life I never needed to do, and I was trying too hard. And I wasn't getting the messages from the Lord or feedback from others that it is okay to do things far more strategically with leverage than to think you got to do it all yourself.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So with all the work that you do today, what do you see coming up in this next generation? And do you feel like you're poised to go influence the next generation of leaders and those that are like coming up behind you?
Well, that's a great question. I've never thought of it before. I guess I thought most of the majority of my influence was already behind me. I did it when my work in the gather when it was so much more visible, or when I put out a book 20 years ago. But I'm looking forward to future surprises, whatever they may be.
Let me read you your own words, because your influence is not behind you. These are your own words, Harvey. Influence changes people from the inside out. Influence changes thoughts, thoughts change behavior, and behavior changes cultures. Peele has a formula: competence plus character plus courage equals great influence. When you're doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons, you are exerting a powerful influence. As an individual, you can make all the difference. There is extraordinary power in an ordinary life. You wrote that.
Yeah.
So when I look at you, I see competence, character, and courage. I see great influence. That's your equation.
Thank you. You know, every couple of years I sit on it, I reread the book to remind me.
Yeah.
To remind myself so I don't forget some of those things. And one more thing, early on in the book, I quote Dr. Francis Schaeffer, one of the most influential theologians and philosophers of the last century. Came across this book entitled No Little People. In it, he says, in God's sight, there are no little people and no little places, only individuals who live their lives in moments of sacred obedience to God. And when they do so, he gives them the ability to influence the flow of a generation. Mm-hmm. I came across that because that's who I was. I thought I was a little person from a little place. And God stepped in and said, I know you're not.
You got some work to do. Yeah. I got stuff I'm calling you towards.
You're my David. You're my Joseph. You're my Moses.
From a little 2,000 person village in Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's there for every one of us.
That's exactly right. So my encouragement, just knowing you, listening to you, whether it's reading your book, hearing your stories, everybody has this opportunity to have great influence on the world around them. And God is just calling your name, waiting for you to step into it.
Yes.
And like we talked about earlier, he's already finished the work. The finish line is there. He's just waiting for you to start.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody that's listening to our voices right now, like what is it that has been pulling you towards him, that he's waiting for you to take step one? Like heaven's going to celebrate when you start the race. Just take that first step. I feel like people, the courage part of that equation that you just said, a lot of people have the competence, but the courage part to take step one, what would you say to that person that maybe is feeling a little bit afraid to do that?
Again, maybe the most influential person in my life beyond my mother and dad. Dr. John Perkins. And this quote is a quote he shared with me. He spoke it to me on a private conversation. And it was around this issue of grace and race, racism, and all that, the struggle, minorities, blacks in America. And what his comment was, what? God has given me all this grace, and I'm not going to use it? I'm not going to use it to love white people. I'm not going to use it to love people, whether I like them or not. And so I guess my answer to that question is, what? God has given me all this grace to be here. I have some gifts. I have some abilities. Harvey, stop looking at your weaknesses. What, you're not going to use it?
Yeah, it's a good question.
That's how could I not? How could I not?
Yeah, that's a really good, wow. Well, how could I not is a good way to end this, because that's the, for the believers that I know who are using their influence well, that's typically their answer, is once they're overcome with the love of Jesus and the awareness of what he's done for them and in and through their life, that how can I not go pour this out and be a blessing to others? How can I keep this to myself? Yeah. Once it hits your heart, it almost seems like it's an impossibility. I have to go share this. I have to go give of myself. So, and you've done that really well for 50 plus years. Thank you. So, well, thank you for being an inspiration to me and many others around town and way beyond town. I mean, your influence reaches far and wide, way beyond Columbus. So just thanks for all the dedicated years of hard work, for being a friend, and then for being willing to share your time here on this show. I don't take it for granted. Thank you, and thank you for being such an encourager of me and definitely an encourager of men. Yeah. Thank you. You're doing it. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you, brother. So, yeah, well, we're over and out. For more information, episodes, resources, you can get it at markreeves.com. But thank you for being here, Harvey. Thank you for watching the First in Focus show. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and then share with a friend.